Welcome in to another episode of the Cabal podcast. We were off last week because I didn't want to film an episode. This is your co-host PTarts to win, and I'm gonna pass it off to the other co-host, Theo. How you doing, Theo? Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, Theo!
Happy birthday. I'm doing great. Just turned 21 today, and yeah, I'm
Poggers.
Theo_Jung on Magic Online, and today on the podcast we have two very special guests. One of them,
Theo, you're 21, but you just turned 21 today. But you posted a pretty inappropriate meme in our Discord, and your reasoning was you were 4 claws deep. But how could that be possible if you've only turned 21 today?
No. Here it goes off the rail. It took about 20 seconds.
he said, you really gotta ask that.
You get it out of like that. Jeez.
Done. Well, you know, I've been breaking the law.
Ain't no laws when you're drinking claws, Theo. Come on. You know the rules.
Ain't no laws of drinking claws. Say that right.
Oh,
Oh, man.
all right. Let's pass it off to Michael.
Yeah.
How are you doing today?
I'm the first special guest. I'm Michael or Gasman48 on Magic Online, Twitch, and Twitter. And then we have Ashiok.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening, man. I'm Ashiok. I Dreams of Ashiok on Moto, Ashiok Nightmare Weaver on Twitch. It's your boy. That's about it.
So, what did you guys do this weekend where we gracefully asked you onto our podcast and you graciously accepted?
Oh, well, this past weekend, I top 8'd the Pioneer Challenge. And the weekend before that, I top 8'd 2 Pioneer Challenges, but someone didn't want to film a podcast, so I couldn't be on.
We filmed a... Oh, no, we didn't film a podcast. I started by saying that.
No, but I top 8'd and got I got second place in the Modern Challenge this weekend. So
Very cool.
we're rolling.
So,
Wow.
what did you finish all those Pioneer top 8s with, Gaz?
So for 2 of them, I played Mono Green Devotion. Then for 1, I played Teamer Reclamation.
And what was the most recent ones? Mono Green?
Mono Green was this past weekend. I mean, the deck is, everyone knows the rules. You just play a turn 1 Llanowar Elf, and then you win the game. It's pretty easy. The deck's kind of stupid. Zero brain power required.
Is it the best deck in Pioneer?
Yeah, probably.
You mean Mono Green?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people have started to learn that Mono Green was the best deck, and so there's a lot more tech for it. Because I've been jamming Mono Green for forever, ever since like Othenis got unbanned. I guess it's not like forever, but anyway, I feel like people started to learn that Fatal Push is starting to be a really good card, and that's why decks like the Loraas, Prowess, Young Pyromancer deck is like good now. I feel like the format's starting to become more like how Modern was a while ago, where it was like rock, paper, scissors about which deck you're going to be playing and hope you get the good matchups.
Sure. So then, like, with that being said, what would you do to, like, combat that? Like, what decks do you think are, like, close to the top now in Pioneer?
Decks that are like good or like stats wise are like the Teamer Rec deck. The Teamer Rec deck has a lot of power because it has a lot of inevitability. You're eventually going to win by drawing your entire deck, and cards like Castle Vantress help you filter out your draws pretty well. The deck that's been like super popular recently is the Prowess deck that I was talking about earlier. Oh, not the Prowess deck, the Pyromancer deck. And that deck's just like has some insane nut draws with like turn 1 Thoughtseize into Dreadhorde Arcanist into Young Pyromancer, Village Rites, and you just draw and cycle through so many cards. It's a deck that's like become really popular within like the last week, I would say. I haven't really seen it past that, but it won the challenge on the weekend.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's a deck that appeals to a lot of people too. It's like you get to play with cards like Young Pyromancer, you get to play with Thoughtseize and Fatal Push.
Yeah.
So all you lovers of like fair Magic out there that love some graveyard synergies, like
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really fun
Yeah.
deck, and also
Yeah.
really inexpensive, so a lot of
Oh,
people
yeah.
can have access to it.
It's a cult following deck. I would 100% agree.
I still think mono green is just like
Oh, I think mono green is still really good.
it's just doing like stuff that's more powerful than anything else in the format. I think.
Is
Just
Niv
like-
still kind of at the top?
I don't
I
know.
think Nif has fallen, honestly.
Yeah, Niv's fallen off
So-
a bit.
It was like arguably the best deck in Pioneer, like at least like when the bannings first happened, right? Like a lot of people were playing it.
Yeah.
But I think like the format sort of adapted to it. I think you can see that with Team Rec, like running 4 main deck copies of Mystical Dispute.
Hmm.
So like when that's also a tier 1 deck, and like and we found that it doesn't really have like an amazing mono green matchup either. Like there's not that many reasons to really like play the deck anymore, so it makes sense why it's sort of fallen back
Yeah.
from being like the best deck.
Yeah.
The Nif delay
But it's still posting up results.
Yeah, you can still play it and it'll be fine.
Yeah,
Looking at
it's,
the other decks that are like tier 1 though, like what does it match up like super like poorly against other than like mono green?
The Luca deck, the Luca matchup is absolutely awful for Niv,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
And people are playing a lot of that deck. It's really good against like the aggro decks, I think. It's really good against mono black.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's good against the black red deck that's been popping up as well, but maybe that's something we'll see later as more people pick up the red black deck. We can potentially see like people going back to Niv as like sort of a solution.
Are you guys feeling like Jeskai Luca is tier 1?
No.
What would you say
Well,
is tier 1?
I think it's quite good.
I think it's quite
It
good.
ha-
I wouldn't say it's tier 1. I think if tier 1, whenever I talk about tier 1 in my own opinion, I think those are like the best 2 or 3 decks. And if I were to make that, I would say Team Rec and Mono Green are there.
Yeah, I'd say that's true. Mono Green and Team Rec are like vying for the top spot in Pioneer, and everything else is like right below
what
and competitive.
What decks would you consider like playable right now? Like if you were to enter a tournament, like how many decks do you think like?
Oh, there are a lot of playable decks in Pioneer right now. A lot. Like probably like 12 decks. They're good enough to play.
Fair enough. What do you guys think about Jun Sacrifice?
That's
Oh,
definitely one of the 12.
I love me some Jun Sacrifice. You know, I started playing it on Sunday of this week. I ran it through a league on stream. I went 5-0, and I'm like, let's run this back for the prelim. I went 3-2, but I really like enjoy playing the deck. Mainly because I don't really enjoy any of the other tier 1 decks in Pioneer right now. Like Mono Green doesn't really appeal to me. It just feels like Tron. And like I tried Team Rec and it just felt kind of mopey. So I looked towards like, yeah, dude, that felt mopey.
It is a very much so dirtily deck. Like the amount of times my opponents have just had to like use Castle Vantress 5 turns in a row to do something. It's quite frequent.
Yeah, like I was talking to Kane Reinhardt, Sneaky Masato, and all of his guy doesn't brand himself very well, so whatever other names he has, but
He has 3 accounts, yeah. Source Odin on Magic Online.
Yeah. So, and he was saying that Jun Sacrifice was like really, really good for him because I'm kind of looking for a deck right now. Like, I'm trying to learn that from this podcast. What should I be playing in Pioneer? But it sounds like Jun Sacrifice is pretty good though.
It's fine. It's definitely one of the 12 competitive decks.
I think that deck is super poopy.
Really? Why?
Also,
it feels like it's such a dirtily deck when it doesn't have like any like as soon as it gets any sort of interaction, it just like it feels super hard. Like you can't sit there and scry on so many turns. Like if you're just sitting there activating Woe Strider trying to get a Bolus to Citadel or a Coco, you're gonna die.
I don't know if I agree with that.
You have to mulligan pretty aggressively when you play that deck too. It's so reliant on like finding those payoff cards and like having a piece that accelerates you into.
Oh, but what's nice is like you have so many ways to find payoffs because you just scry infinite.
Yeah,
all your creatures just scry.
Use your own resources, right? And so your turns become less powerful, so you become way more reliant on Bolus to Citadel.
And I don't think the mulligans are as harsh because like your payoffs actually catch you up on cards that you were missing, like because of your mulligans. Like Coco, you get like 2-3 drops off it.
Mm-hmm.
Bolus to Citadel is obviously like sort of a game-ending card, like given you are at like a reasonable life total. So yeah, and the deck has like a lot of like cool little synergies too, like scrying with Woe Strider to like set up the top of your deck with Bolus of Citadel in play.
Yeah.
And yeah. I've been liking it a lot. I'm not sure if it's like the best deck in Pioneer. I found it to have like a good green devotion matchup.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I found I'm quite fortunate with it, but to be fair, the matchup's very Karn dependent. It's if you see
Yeah.
Karn.
Yeah, you need a Karn.
It's like it's also like whoever just gets on the board quicker tends to win, I think. So play draw is really important in that matchup.
So the way I look at Pioneer right now is there's a lot of decks that have to mulligan aggressively for really fast and like unbeatable starts. Like the decks that I pile into this are like mono green, this deck. I think Winota also goes into this pile of just decks that you need to mulligan so aggressively with to do anything. But when the deck's like working and having a good time, you can have like 4 copies in the top 8 and just spike a tournament. I think there's a lot of those decks in the not a lot. Like there's a good amount of those decks in the format, which I don't know if it's like necessarily good to have these like super powerful win more stupid brainless decks, but
I mean, they're not necessarily brainless, but I do feel like the play patterns in Pioneer do feel a little goldfishy.
Yeah.
Just because of like the lack of a very interactive deck. Like even Team Iraq, which is supposed to be like a blue fair deck, is sort of more on the combo control side than it is on the actual control side.
I think like the fairest deck that we have that's like up there is either like Esper Poob or
Well, like
I guess
Rakdos Pyromancer is pretty fair.
Yeah, Rakdos is fair. Poob.
We're talking about fair control.
Jeskai Luca.
Oh, Niptolite and Poob.
Fair
And...
control deck.
Come on, Jeskai Luca is not a control deck.
No, it's
Jeskai
not.
Luca is a combo deck.
Esper
Let's
Poob
be
and
real.
Niptolite are both very fair
And
control decks.
Niftalite.
Niftalite,
Yeah.
I would give it to.
Yeah,
One deck I'm actually really excited to start playing again is Orzhov Auras.
That deck is like secretly really good.
I was actually playing that deck a lot before the companion nerf and did really well with it. And
I
seeing
hate
it,
that deck so much.
Yeah, I'm seeing it get a lot more play now, and I think I'm definitely going to run this in the Pioneer Challenges this weekend.
I'm always like super impressed with how good like Hushbringer is in that deck. Like I ran into it on ladder and there was like 4 Hushbringers main. I was playing mono green and I'm sitting there with like 3 burning trees in hand and a jade light. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do against this turn 2 Hushbringer?
4 Hushbringer main.
It was I don't think he 5-0'd, but it was within like a league. Like Hushbringer in the mono win Auras deck. Oh, so good. I think like Hushbringer is like super secretly good in this format.
Hushbringer Fox, you heard it here.
I actually hated that card when I played the
Oh, it
deck.
seems so good. Like
I thought it was awful.
I thought it was so good.
I mean, you have to think, I guess, like, what's it really turning off? And
It turned off
Yeah.
Burning Tree, it turned off Jade Light, which were like the most important things.
it's very good against mono green. I'll say that.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
good against
it-
mono green.
It clapped me.
Turns off Hydra, turns off J-Light, turns off all that stuff.
Burning Tree, and it turns off like a lot of the other. I don't know. Actually, I don't think there is any. It turns off Niv, which is also super important. It turns off what was the other one? Agent of Treachery. I've seen that happen before.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, turning off Agent of Treachery is a big one.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Like Hushbringer is like secretly really good in this meta.
I don't really imagine turning off Agent of Treachery alone is good enough
Yeah.
to board in against Luca. So
My 2-mana 1/2 against the Supreme Verdict, deafening Clarion pile.
doesn't it also have lifelink?
Yeah,
I'm
Flying
pretty sure Hushbringer also has
Flying
lifelink.
Lifelink, yeah.
Yeah, so you can like slap an aura onto it and like get in
yeah.
there.
Yeah, it's like super good. I think it's like secretly like a really good card right now. That just slept on because the Aura's deck is on the low end right now, but it's climbing.
Yeah.
It's one of those great Vogel decks.
What do you guys
So-
feel like about Mono Black?
It's good.
It's one of those consistent things. I feel like right now it's like overrepresented in the meta purely because of Bolovo plays it too consistently and he's just a really good player. So I feel like it's represented in the meta.
I feel like only one player ever wins with that deck, and it's Bolovo. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen like Mono Black like post that many results aside from like him like
Good results, we should say.
top 8ing every event. Yeah,
Yeah.
good results.
But
Yeah.
if he can do it, anyone can do it. If they
I
just
feel-
believe.
Yeah,
Anyone can be a platinum pro,
Hey,
but I guess
I see this result on August 28th by Mr. PTarts to win, getting a 3 in a Pioneer Premium.
Yeah, and
Oh, man.
I'd beat Belovo in the mirror in that.
oh,
PTarts is the best mono black player.
Listen,
so that's
listen,
so
though.
Are you a platinum pro?
I went 3-2, and I
Mono
played the
Black Goat.
I went 3-2, and I played the mono black mirror 3 times, and those were my 3 wins. So I don't
It's
know if
hard
the
to
deck.
argue with those results.
I don't know if the deck is that good.
I guess like a deck I wanted to talk about is Winota. We see a copy in the top 8 or the top 4 of the same challenge Gasman top 8
Yeah.
Yeah.
by Felipa Corolla.
Yeah, and also she said that was her first time playing the deck, I think.
Yeah.
And she top 8'd that challenge.
Yeah.
I actually really like the one copy of PNLR in this deck. That's pretty neat.
NLR is like super like cute.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess there's not really that much to say here. It's just like same old Winota. It's always going to be like pretty
you're
good.
spinning the wheel when you play Winona.
Oh yeah.
You know?
It's like Tron. It's like a less powerful mono green, and it's like also like a Tron thing where it's just like if you're just like consistently getting Winota, you're unbeatable.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I do have a question to pose to the guest and Theo. As someone who's pretty washed right now, hasn't really been playing much of the format at all, or much Magic at all, what do you recommend that I... Because I'm probably going to be playing Pioneer tomorrow, maybe Pioneer later tonight, and probably Pioneer Saturday. What do you recommend that I take into Pioneer this weekend? What should I be jamming with?
Mono green.
I'm gonna agree with Gasman here and say it's the deck that you don't need to sideboard with.
Yep, it's just so easy to play. So much thought is taken out of the equation for you.
I like mess up with mono green. I feel like I do. Maybe I don't mess up, but every time I play mono green, I feel like I just lose.
I feel like
Impossible.
I'm mulligan aggressively. Like I don't know. It's just like anytime I play it, it's like I don't understand how this deck is like one of the best decks.
A lot of newer people to mono green, the area that they mess up on in is the wishing. I feel like the wishing is just where new players fuck up.
I guess that's like the closest part to sideboarding in the deck.
Yeah.
There is,
Any wishboard guiders in chat?
I don't know. I didn't explain it very well, but evaluating, I guess like Karn is I think 12 to 10 cards right now in the board. I don't remember how many it's exactly run. I think it's very much so list dependent, but it's very hard to evaluate what cards are good when. Sometimes it's like super obvious, like Boat's like super good sometimes, but like percentage point wise, like there's always like a 2% difference between which cards are really good, and it's really hard to evaluate. Like I've seen a lot of people grab the wrong thing a lot amount of times, and I've had a lot of arguments in Twitch chat about how relevant something is.
I've had a lot of arguments in Twitch chat as well.
I mean, but those situations don't come up like extremely often, though, right?
But I feel like it also sets a good player away from a bad player.
Yeah, obviously, like there's some percentage points to be gained there by like knowing how to like evaluate the game state and wish with Karn. But it doesn't take like a triple-digit IQ to know that you have to get Damping Sphere against Lotus Breach.
Oh, yeah, there are some obvious ones. I will admit, like Mono Green Mirror, you want to grab Boat, like that's a pretty obvious one.
It depends. It's all situational though. It's like I mean, Boat is one of the best cards, but like sometimes you want to get like Damping Sphere against Mono Green in the mirror.
You know, like all this discourse on like this like wish targets is reminding me of the meme like show and tell is the hardest part of the deck.
yeah, I remember that. That's funny.
So other than mono green, what else do you recommend?
Whenever people ask me, like a lot of Twitch chat people just always ask me like what should I be playing right now, and I always just suggest like well, what do you feel most comfortable with? Like, are you just coming into the format brand new? Because if you're brainless, just play mono black aggro. Like that's a pretty like aggro strategies are pretty linear, right?
No, just play mono green.
I don't know about that one.
Disagree. Play mono green.
I'm gonna disagree with mono black being super easy to play.
Yeah, that is not an easy deck to play at all.
I feel like it's
a lot of
that is wrong.
Okay. I completely. So a lot of the games you win with that deck are games you win by like taking advantage of like small edges, right? Like your cards aren't inherently that powerful. You're playing like freaking like 8 copies of Savannah Lions. You're playing like Scrap Heap Scrounger. So you really
don't you say anything about Scrap Heap Scrounger.
Well, other players are playing like Fires of Invention and like Wilderness Reclamation. Like you're putting 2-1s in your deck.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna have to like also, manage your resources carefully and like not like miss anything.
I think the reason I said mono black aggro is because it's the best example of like the linear aggro deck, like the burn of the format, or it's like the Loraas aggro of the format. Like it's just one of the more linear, easier decks to understand, where you don't have a high skill. Sorry, there's always a skill ceiling, but it's not as high as I would probably suggest some of the other decks in the format.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the time, and I think that this comes from like just my play experience, like over my career, is that like playing a lot of aggro decks, like you have like the same types of heuristics. So like if you've played a lot of aggro decks, like you're probably going to be able to play like mono black aggro because you like understand a lot of like the heuristics and like things that go like a lot of theory that goes into like just playing an aggro deck that like is kind of like transferable onto mono black aggro.
Yeah, I guess I can agree with that.
Yeah, I always just suggest comfort picks.
I don't know. My aggro decks normally don't play 4 Thoughtseizes, so it's like there's definitely more decisions and like like Theo said, like that deck, all the cards are so weak, like fundamentally, that you have to just like play really tight and just make all the right decisions, or else you're just gonna get like mega punished.
That's like most aggro decks, though, right? Like you don't have to make many decisions, but your decisions are like very critical.
Yeah, because you don't have many turns to play. Because if the game goes long, you die.
No, but in mono black, you do have to make more decisions because you're playing like Thoughtseize, Fatal Push. So like, I think it does matter.
Yeah. And your plan isn't exactly like incredibly linear because like you are more of an interactive aggro deck, right? Like you aren't as good of an aggro deck as like mono red aggro, for instance.
It's like
your goldfish is like definitely a turn or two slower.
It's definitely,
and you're putting interactive cards in your deck like Thoughtseize. I feel like it's a deck where you really have to know where to pick your spots, right? It's like, when should I be like spending 3 mana on turn 3 to like swift end their creature, or like when should I be like applying pressure and adding stuff to the board? I think those are like the harder decisions I face whenever I decide to play mono black, and those are decisions that end up mattering a lot.
It's not necessarily the same, but it's kind of like the Death Shadow aggro decks where it's like you're an aggro deck, which is like more decisions like that.
I'd equate it to that more than I would like a burn deck or something.
It was my quick thought of an example of a linear aggro deck. Like, no hate to the mono black players, but just like,
but like fuck them, right?
The most popular linear
I think if you wanted to play a really simple aggro deck this weekend for a Pioneer Challenge, I would just play probably mono red, or I'd play like Orzhov Auras. Those decks are very.
I'd play Winota. If you don't know anything about the format, play Winota.
What about like what do you guys think is just a straight up like good deck? Like if you like felt like comfortable like playing whatever, what would you choose? Like what do you think is well positioned?
Easily mono green. I think
I would
like
mono green.
Oh, so I should just fucking play mono green then. Either way, I should just play
the
mono
deck's
green.
Totally brainless.
Actually, I think you should be playing Grixis Fires. Grixis Fires is the best deck in the format, and there is no if, ands, or buts.
So I want to circle back to this, but Gaz, you said that you top aided your first, like the first of the 3 top 8s with Teamerek, and then finished off with green. Why did you like switch from Teamerek into green, like especially after top 8ing?
I don't know, honestly. I mean, I have like very little experience with mono green. I've played it in 4 challenges, top 8ed 3 of them, and like I think
very little.
No, but like I didn't jam leagues before that. I didn't play prelims with the deck. Like
no, it's fair.
I played the deck in 2 leagues. The first league I played it, I went like 2 and 3, and the next league I went like 4 and 1, which like pretty average, like normal results. Probably below average if you combine both, right? So it's like the deck's just
it's like
dumb.
a good 6 and 4. That's a good 60%.
Yeah, it's 60%.
Win rate.
That's not awful, I guess. But the deck's very. You don't have to think a lot. There's no sideboarding, and you just have to mulligan to find the Llanowar Elf. I mean, that's really it. The deck's so simple, and it just like it rewards you just for like mulliganing for an elf. That's it.
I feel like Teamerek is a deck that you need some wrinkles in your brain to play. So
yeah, it's the best thinking deck.
Now, best thinking deck is Lotus.
So I should stay away from.
If you really want to think.
Like okay, no. Like I use think very loosely, as in like it is the deck that you actually have to put thought into your plays.
Yeah.
Did you want to go over your tournament, Gasman? Just like talk about the decks that you played against, or do you think it's just pretty like unimportant?
Yeah, I just honestly in the mono green deck, your decisions don't matter that much as long as you're mulliganing for an elf or like some deck that ramps you or like a hand that ramps you at all. That's really all it is. And the mirror is even worse. It's just like a Yahtzee.
I think the mirror has a lot more skill than you're leading on, to be fair. But the only reason I say that is because you do have to. It's super it's a balancing act because like you want the elf, but you also have to worry about Hydra and devotion. Like I've lost games where my opponent didn't elf, but double BT will just get you there. Like it's a very weird matchup.
Should you be
Yeah,
like
but
mulling for like just like Llanowar elf hands or like hands that do like something specifically busted?
you either need like a Llanowar Elf start or like a Burning Tree Emissary
Well,
Nykthos start.
I guess like the general heuristic I found is just like get hands that reliably get you to 4 mana on turn 3.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
4 or more mana.
But the mirror is definitely not highly skill intensive. I don't know what you're talking about. That's
Okay,
just wrong.
When both players have access to like the same 75, I do believe that like those are some of the most skillful matches that you could probably play, unless it's like burn. But like in this case where it's like 10 wish targets, I think it's way more skill intensive than you lead
I feel
on.
like just looking at the deck list though, like isn't being on the play in the mirror just like fucking like lights
Yep.
out?
Yeah, it's super
Yep.
good. But I've lost so many games on the play because of Hydras, because of Nissas. Like you're super reliant on the top of your deck too.
Like I guess I understand what you're saying. Like I can see how like both of your points are like true. Like I feel like Gaz is like saying like if you start out going like elf and then your opponent goes elf and you go like Hydra kill your elf, you're like gonna fucking destroy him. But like if that shit doesn't happen and it goes late, like I can see it being like if you're both like just like activating multiple planeswalkers a turn, which is like huge decision trees, like especially with like the wish boards and things like that. Like I can understand how in a long game, like it like you have a lot of decision making and a lot of decision trees.
You do, but it really just comes down to like who has more planeswalkers.
Oh yeah,
and who gets to land them first.
yeah.
It's
Who
like
draws better is well. There's also just like the deck has such a comeback mechanic. Like oh my lord, there's so many games I should not have won with mono green that I won. Like it just happens. There's such a comeback mechanic with that deck because wishing is powerful. Keep printing wish cards, please.
All right. Do you guys want to move into modern?
Sure.
Sure. I feel like we've covered Pioneer
Yeah.
pretty well.
So, Ashiok, I see that you finished second place. You couldn't get the dub, but it's okay. We still brought you on the podcast with this red-black garbage deck. How did it go?
It was a terrible pile. It went pretty well. I think my 2 losses, I lost in the finals, but then my other loss in like the Swiss rounds, I'm pretty sure it was to Dominic Harvey. I don't remember his exact moto name. It's like Dom Harvey. It's like similar to his just real name.
It's Capriccio.
Okay, so then it was just some wannabe that like had a Dom Harvey name. But anyway, I lost to 4-color Shadow, and that's just purely because he drew 4 Goyfs in a game.
Got it.
I feel like the deck is like super well positioned, and I feel like it's the deck that is troubled because people just try to make it like a linear aggro deck when it's not, and that's where people just lose.
Yeah. The approach of just like boarding in a bunch of removal as you would do against like a regular prowess deck and like life gain, especially. Like I've played a bit of red black Luris and people would board in like garbage cards like Dragon's Claw and like Weather the Storm against you, and then you definitely gain some percentage points in that regard.
I've heard people call it like Jund with better threats. Is that pretty like accurate?
100%. Yeah, 100% agree. I feel like it's the most skill-intensive prowess deck you could be playing in the format right now.
Fair enough.
Super.
What do you think about like the way that I see the format as kind of like Monastery Swiss Spear versus like Euro like dual decks?
Yeah, I mean, like I agree with it because like you can literally just click on MTG Goldfish. The top 2 decks are, I think the top 3 are 2 different prowess decks and then Euro piles.
I mean, that's not entirely inaccurate. I feel like
I do.
the prowess shell is probably like one of the more powerful shells, right? And then like the Uro shell, obviously, like goes in, and then that sort of like encompasses the spectrum of like proactive to reactive in the format, and like the things those decks are doing, I think, are more inherently like powerful and like good in a vacuum than like most other things the format has going on.
Yeah,
I guess like you can make an honorable mention to like Gruul mid-range or like green red shit monsters or like the Titan decks.
Those decks like just feel like a cut below though, you know what I mean? Like they're either like they're pretty much just gonna be like good against one of the two decks and like not even that good. Like you play red green monsters, you like fold to the prowess decks, and you're like 60% against the Euro decks, and it's like I don't know. Guess and like you're good against like some of the fucking like Tron decks and like E-Tron shit that like fills in the middle.
Yeah, no, I super agree. I think like, and then you even got like Amulet Titan, which just like gets what beats like the prowess decks, but then gets shit on by the Aether Gust decks.
Mm-hmm.
So like it definitely feels as though we're in the meta where there's the two best decks. You target one of them and hope to just get the matchup pool.
Yeah, it also feels like we say like dual decks Euro versus Swift Spear, but like Swift Spear like is like in so many decks, and same with Euro. Like there's so many different flavors of Swift Spear and Euro that it's like maybe it's a little disingenuous to say like dual deck Swift Spear versus Euro because it makes it sound like there's just two decks, but like there's certainly a lot of different flavors. Like Mono Swift Spear can like be in Burn, can be in like Mono Red Prowess, can be in like Red Black Prowess. Those are all three very very different decks, and even like this Red White Prowess deck that I've seen like pop up recently.
Yeah, and like same with the Uro decks. There are many Uro piles you can choose from.
Yeah.
It's a very much so build your own. It's like a build a bear kind of meta right now, but you're just it's all
like
bears.
It's like you start with like the foundation with like the good cards. That's like your bear shell, right? And then you fill it with whatever you want.
It all looks the same, but it's just slightly different. Like there's like 5 cards different. That's basically it.
Gaz, you did say that you thought that Green Tron might be good because it targets both of those decks pretty well, like both those cards.
Yeah, I think Green Tron does have a very good matchup against the red black prowess decks, and not as good versus the Euro piles, but I think it's reasonable if you have a sideboard and main board that's like tuned for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Did the list that you top it like? Would you run back the list that you played in the challenge like a few that you top it a challenge or won the challenge with a few weeks ago?
I'd definitely make some tweaks to it, but you know, at the end of the day, the Tron shell is more or less always going to be the same, right? You're playing like 4 Worm Coils, 4 Karns, and then everything else.
What did you specifically like not really like about the list that you played? I know that you said that you weren't a big fan of Thragtusk.
Yeah, Thragtusk is a very satisfying card to play with, but it just didn't impress me. You know, obviously you're not playing a lot of green mana, so there are times like where you have it on hand and like have turn 3 Tron, but you can't make a Thragtusk, and you know it's okay against prowess. I mean, but it's not as good as Worm Coil. And then like it used to be a really great card. Like before Uro, if you were against control, you would take out your Worm Coils, put in Thragtusks, but now control just has like a 6/6. So you know, Thragtusk doesn't line up that well against an Uro.
What do you?
It's definitely not as good as it used to be.
What would you swap it for? Just more of the 2 mana kill spell and like maybe some like Veil of Summers.
Yeah, the 2 mana Spatial Contortion, Veil of Summer are options. Also, like more Graveyard Hate's an option for the Uro decks.
I feel like Thought-Knot Seer is really well positioned in the sideboard of Tron right now. It's kind of weird, but it is relatively well positioned.
I don't know if I would play Thought-Knot Seer. I don't think I'll bring it in against control because they have an Uro.
No, not against control. Like it's a super good mid-range threat for against the Gruul Ponza decks.
Against the Gruul, yeah, but it's very hard to produce waste mana under a Blood Moon.
No.
It's impossible in that deck.
You'll always lose to like a Blood Moon, but like you can just like turbo out a Thought-Knot Seer sometimes, right?
Yeah, I don't know about Thought-Knot Seer. It doesn't really like hit like the top decks, and like it's not. I don't even know if it's like.
Yeah, I mean, like there's a reason that I didn't play E-Tron in that tournament, right?
Yeah, I don't think I'd put sideboards. I mean, like the Green Tron sideboard slots feel very tight right now, especially because you have to make room for the Wish board because of the Great Creator, Karn the Great Creator. So it's definitely like a very competitive area.
I'm leaning towards Green Tron for this weekend. What would you say to me about that, or would you try and lead me away to like something else?
I mean, if you don't want to play Green Tron, obviously like Uro piles and Prowess are very powerful, but I think there's a lot of great options in Modern right now if you don't want to play those 2 top decks. I mean, I think I'm looking at the meta right now, and I think Pawns is still in a fine spot. I mean, it's not as good as like the 2 top decks, but it hits like a lot of the format in good ways. You know, decks that are playing 3-color mana bases, now that Astrolabe's gone. Ashiok was talking about Ad Nauseam earlier, and it's very good against... one second, I'm doing something. Sorry.
Gas bomb!
It's Very good against ad nauseum's very good against the Loraas aggro decks or any of the blitz decks, right?
Yeah.
So that's a good option if
You're
you're.
also favored against like the other the decks that are trying to beat the Euro piles. You're just not favored against Euro piles.
I'm also pretty washed in Modern too. Like I haven't played much Modern. Like
No.
so, like, is there any decks that you think are like pretty like not like pretty easy to like pick up, but like are like well positioned or like what are well positioned decks?
Like low key, real quick. I think I have like a pretty spicy take with thinking that humans is on the rise again. I think it's pretty good. Like humans.
Man,
Humans right now is like pretty deep.
Okay.
It's super weird to say that in the prowess meta, but you're super favored against anything that's not prowess.
I think Spider Space is a very good player and he had a good run. I don't know if humans is coming back.
Copies, right?
I want to hear Theo's take. Theo sounded like he had a hot rebuttal.
So
tear me apart.
I played a lot of humans. I really like the deck, but I don't really think it's that competitive anymore. I don't think it even has a good matchup against the Euro piles, right? Because like I don't know, like whenever I played against like these control decks, like unless I had like a very fast start, I usually found like them going over the top of me. Like they have a lot of avenues to attack you. Like Uro's another thing you have to worry about alongside all the removal. And they're playing like Wall of Blossoms in the main deck now to combat against prowess. And like the answers that people are going to address prowess, which is putting like additional removal spells in their main deck and maybe like some sweepers in their sideboard is bad against humans as well. So like the ways that people are hedging against like the popular prowess decks is detrimental to like humans win percentage. And like,
you get hit by the same cards, but like in this tournament that I did top 8, humans took up 3 of the top 16. I just want that to be clear because that's a pretty like. I know it's a challenge, and challenge results are like the only thing we really have to go off of right now. But like, I still think it was like relatively good that humans did this, and I still think the deck is good. I feel that like Bettling Mage is like in a super weird spot right now, with prowess being good, and I do understand your argument of there being like the prowess hate also hits a lot of the humans hate. Or sorry, is like similar, like it hates on both decks equally. But I do think that like humans is just like it can beat the prowess hate a lot better than how you lead it on, because cards that are like the scalability of that deck with Thalia's Lieutenant and Champion the Para can blow like most of that hate out of the water.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying with the results. Like humans just putting like 3 copies in the top 16 and 1 in top 8 out of nowhere is definitely like a pretty like strong outlier.
Oh yeah, you have to wait.
And I think that's something to consider, and that makes me like kind of curious, like as to why.
I don't know. Seeing such like a small pool to like draw a conclusion from, I don't like doing, especially because all we have is Moto right now, and we don't even have like all the Moto numbers ourselves. But it's probably like a fine. I mean, like Bogle's won the modern mocks, you know, so it's like it's anything could do well on any one tournament.
I mean, it's not just like one data point, right? It's like 3 people on this deck that was not like really popular at any point. It's not considered a tier 1 deck. Put probably like the most copies into the top 16 of like 100-player tournament. And I feel like that result is fairly significant despite it being just one tournament.
I mean, prowess variants definitely put in more in the top 16.
Actually, it depends if you count Yama Killer or not.
Why?
I mean, it's playing 8 prowess creatures, 12 prowess creatures. Basically.
He's playing Obosh.
Yeah, it's like Amayashi's deck, right?
Yeah.
If you count him, then it's then prowess has 1 more.
Yeah, I do agree with Ashiok, even though like sure it's not like it put up more copies than prowess. It wasn't dominant, but I feel like the result was odd enough and like out of the norm to like justify looking at why is this really the case.
Yeah, like it's one of those things that's gonna start a snowball. Like it will. It's as good as the copy of Bant Wurza that won the tournament. We're gonna like this challenge weekend. We're gonna see a lot more copies of Bant Wurza, as we're gonna see a lot more copies of humans. Like it's just gonna start to effect because more people are gonna play the deck.
Speaking of Bant Wurza, I cannot wait to sleeve this deck up and get in a couple games with it.
Deck seems good.
You got sleeves on Moto? How'd I get those?
Oh, well, I wish, but yeah. In the challenge that Ashiok made the finals of, the winner was Bant Warza by H Cook 725. So, in case you don't remember, before Astrolabe got banned, the Warza deck, not like Warza, but like Uroza, which was just like sort of a mid-range deck with a bunch of artifacts. Emery, like Uro and Urza was doing really well. But it kind of like disappeared off the face of the earth after Astrolabe got banned. But we surprisingly see it here winning the Modern Challenge. So as someone who played against it, Ashiok, I just want to hear some of your thoughts.
Yeah, no. So like, I feel as though I've played to the best of my ability in my VODs on my Twitch, and you can see the exact matchup. I feel as though the deck just had a lot of inevitability against prowess decks, with there being like Thought Foundry combo. Like, I can't beat that. You get that online, fuck, I'm dead. I can't do that. I don't have crash throughs. I don't have any way to interact with a lot of chump blockers. If I remember correctly, I can walk us through the top 8 of that challenge and who he played against to get to the dub. I believe in the semifinals, he beat Amulet Titan, and the Amulet Titan opponent claimed that he was able to turn 4 combo him both times on the play in a best of 3. So that's how he ended up winning. And I guess he just like interacted well. I think he had Aether Gust in his list, though.
Let's see.
2 Aether Gust.
Does have 2 copies of Aether Gust in the sideboard.
Yep. And then he beat the Gruul mid-range player. I don't know much about that matchup, but he beat him. So.
Pretty good for.
I imagine the deck with 7 basics, a bunch of like mana producers, and
like yeah. And then he beat me in the finals. Gilded Goose was such a fucking good card. It beat me. Like, just the 1/0/2 beat me. Because I needed to always have a prowess trigger, and if I didn't, he would block. And then he just constantly made food to gain 3 life, and there's just so much inevitability. So I feel like it's really well positioned against like the other prowess piles, which I feel like he versed a lot of. And as soon as it comes to like other decks in the meta, I have no idea. I don't know how it beats Uro.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that matchup, but it doesn't feel like it's the great.
So
okay, but have you ever put Emery into play and then milled over an Uro?
No, I don't.
Let me tell you, it feels good.
As though my name is Ashiok, I don't play blue cards. I hate playing blue cards. It's a super weird thing.
PTarts, we're gonna say something.
Oh yeah, so I was just gonna ask, like, do you guys think that there's still like metagaming or like do you think that the field is still open in Modern, like we've been saying the past few weeks? Or do you think there's like some metagaming to be done, or like do you think like you should be playing a Euro deck or Swiss beer deck, or you're kinda like shitting the bed a little bit? Where are you in that spectrum of those 3 things that like where do you think we're at?
I feel like metagaming is the way to go right now. I feel like there's a lot of exploration of the format still to exist.
What would you like? Well, like I think that the top dogs are easily like the Euro decks and Swiss beer decks. So like, what would you play that hits both of those? Because like that's what you would want to be metagaming right now.
I don't feel as though there's a good enough deck that hits both of those, or else it would have already been discovered. It's been a while since those two. It's been a while where those 2 are the top decks. But the reason I think there's a lot of metagaming to be discovered is the black-red prowess deck itself. Karate Dom figured that out. Like, I think he started playing that deck 3 months ago, right? If I'm not mistaken. And it slowly started picking up pace with like Toast.
Well, that deck was getting played when Loraas was
that deck was like really good right before the like the
definitely
but it got rebuilt, right?
It's the same deck, right?
It's like the exact same deck.
It's literally the same list.
There are some different things, but it rose in popularity again, right? Like Karate Dom was playing it for a while, and then it came up, right? Because everyone thought companions were dead.
Other than Crater
like,
Dom?
Yeah, him.
Oh, right.
His name's Karate, but you call him Crater.
Yeah, Crater
Everyone
Dom.
calls him Crater Dumb.
Crater
I
Dom.
know. Yama ruined his name, but I was new enough in the entire realm to give him his proper name. But anyway, like that deck was super metagame, super well against the other prowess decks, and it beats like the Bant Uro piles semi-consistently. I will admit that there's like the Teamer pile that we shit the bed against, but the other piles we beat, right? I feel like there's a lot of exploration of the format still. I don't think there's anything that beats everything right now. I don't think there's the one Hogak trump card kind of thing. but I do feel as though there's a lot of space in the format to be explored.
All right.
I would sort of agree, yeah, but I feel like there are some ground rules you should sort of like be mindful of when you're approaching playing a deck that's not very explored in this format. Like, you can't have more inevitability than the Uro decks, and like you can't have creatures that die to Lava Dart easily, right? It's like you can't, like, for instance, like Devoted Druid. Like, you can't really play a deck like that because like one of the top decks are just playing a pile of removal.
Yeah. No, I agree. The only thing I like have to go off of is decks like that can still spike random tournaments. I feel like the way you can win a lot of matchups right now is playing the matchup pool, because yes, there is a lot of decks. I think within my ride to the challenge, I think I versed the same deck twice, and every other matchup was unique.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think another thing I kind of want to talk about, I know it's like a super political debate within the Ponza Discord, is Gargaroth versus Glorybringer in the format right now.
Oh, I think it's Gargaroth, hands down.
Like me and Gigi have had a conversation about it, and we think like Glorybringer is like super good, but Gargaroth is like the new spice right now. A little bit of pizzazz.
And Gargaroth's just better.
Dude, as a red-black, I think I played against Ponza once, and he drew 3 Elder Gargaroths, and I killed all 3 and still won. And
Yeah,
I only caught under Angrass Rampage.
That sounds like a...
It was a luck sack, but
an oddity.
I had to sacrifice 2 of my mountains to flashback Lava Darts to kill it. Just saying, it wasn't like an easy thing. No, I like...
Yeah. I think Owen ran to the bathroom or something real quick, but we were talking about Elder Gargoth versus Glorybringer.
Oh,
Wait,
yeah. Sorry, I've been drinking too many claws today. Sorry, boys. But yeah. So, are you asking me my opinion on Elder Gargaroth versus Glorybringer?
Elder Gargaroth in the format in general. That card has been seeing a ridiculous amount of play to answer Prowess deck.
Here's my issue with the whole Elder Gargaroth. Our Elder Gargaroth is like, once it's out of the box, it's out of the box. You can't play Elder Gargaroth. You can't not play Elder Gargaroth if people are playing Elder Gargaroth. Because if you play Glorybringer into Elder Gargaroth, you're gonna get fucking destroyed in the mirror.
Yeah.
So it's like, now that the cat's out of the bag with it, if you ever want to like win the mirror, you have to play that card. So like, unless Glorybringer is like so much better in the format, you're like kind of getting like, it's like Elder Gargaroth is still like quite good against like the Euro piles. It's like bad against Jace, but like unless they're like Bant with like Jace and Path, it's still pretty good. It's pretty good like against like the Teamer versions or like the Sultai versions. Like it dodges like Bolt, it dodges Fatal Push. Like it's a pretty resilient creature, and like it's much better against Prowess than Glorybringer is, and it's much better in the mirror. So I think there's a little bit of give and take, but I think that you should be playing Elder Gargaroth if you think other people are going to be playing Elder Gargaroth.
Which seems to be the case, yeah. It seems like a lot of Ponza players have just adopted Elder Gargaroth over Glorybringer lately.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But yeah, so why don't are all of you guys planning on playing some amount of Modern this week?
Yep, I'm jamming red black.
All right.
Yeah, I'll be playing Modern this weekend.
What are you going to be playing, Gaz?
I'm likely going to play Tron. Or I am curious about Bogles, so I might try Bogles out and see how that feels.
Ship me a list, Gaz, because I was playing your list earlier today. I just ran it through a league. I played your list from the challenge, but I cut a Thragtusk for a Spatial Contortion. But I wonder if there can even be some more tweaks to be done. So maybe we can talk about it off the pod. But yeah.
Yeah, sure. I am interested in moving back towards board wipes if Bogles is going to become a popular deck.
Yeah,
that's the only. Yeah, or all is dust. Either
Dust is the cleanest answer you got.
Well, the nice thing about O-Stone is it dodges Gaddock Teague, which is really important in that matchup.
Yeah, but you
Oh, so-
can also just like keep board in spatials. I still think you board in spatials in that matchup.
O-Stone's quite good. Like, I really like O-Stone against, like, the decks that are, like, really disrupting you with, like, Blood Moon or, like, shit like that. Because you can just, like, 3-5 and, like, just wipe, right? And then
Yeah,
you're, like, set
exactly.
up. Whereas, like, you don't have to, like, build up to 7 mana and, like, all this dust.
Sure, yeah. Blood Moon isn't too popular right now. I think Ponza's in a good spot, but I think the general consensus is that it's not in a good spot.
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of people moving away from Ponza.
And then, what are you thinking, Theo, for this weekend?
This weekend, I think the challenges I'm gonna play in the 24-hour span I'll be awake would be Pioneer, Vintage, and Legacy. So I probably won't be playing any Modern.
Are you doing a 24-hour stream?
I think so. Yeah.
Damn, Theo, I was going to do a 24-hour stream this week to bring it back for the stream.
Do it. Both of you do it.
Killing me. No, it's okay. And then, to bring it back to, like, Pioneer, what would all of you, like, be playing in Pioneer this week? Monogreen, right? Like,
I might try the Rakdos Loraas deck. I might.
alright.
I think Mono Green is definitely the deck to play. I'm
yeah.
going to play Orzhov Auras.
Yeah.
My heart
'cause I
says
wanna-
Jun Sacrifice.
Maybe I'll give Jun Sacrifice a league to impress me.
Yeah, I played a league of it and it did not impress me. No, not like it.
Did you play any of the Jun? Like, I played a lot of Jun Sacrifice to a lot of success in Standard, so that's what makes me want to play it.
I don't play Standard, so I never got any of that experience.
I did well in a challenge with it once.
That was the list I shipped you too, Theo.
Oh yeah.
How does it, like, compare to that deck?
I don't know. It just, strangely enough, it just doesn't grind as well because of the lack of the Trail of Crumbs engine. I found.
Right.
I feel like also not writing Corvold's like a big thing. I feel like Corvold was like better.
Yeah, so maybe we should just be playing a standard deck instead.
Yeah, I mean people are playing Team Rec, right?
Like, yeah, it's a pretty different deck actually than, like, because you don't really play, like, you're not really playing like Cat Oven combo. and
Yeah,
shit like
very
that.
different.
Yeah,
definitely.
it's a pretty different deck.
Yeah.
It feels more like Aristocrats with like some stupid payoff cards rather than like
Yeah.
a carbon copy of standard Jun Sac. It's been ported to Pioneer.
Mhm.
It's
I
weird.
do think Corvold is an impressive sideboard card though for the Pioneer version.
Oh yeah.
It's like sideboarding Niv and like Teamer Rack. It's like
Can
the
we
same
talk
kind of-
about how like this is the first time we've seen Coco be good in like a hot minute?
Well, we don't even know if it's Coco's, like, that good in that. Like, we don't even know if that deck is good.
I think that deck is hot garbage, but Coco is like seeing play in it, right? And so I haven't seen Coco see play since like I think Bant Spirits was popular.
Yeah.
And so it's been a hot minute since Coco's been good in Pioneer. When Pioneer was like a format that was even talked about. The first cards that people talked about were like Cat Combo, Coco, and Smuggler's Copter aggro decks. Right?
I don't know, I mean, Coco is just like an obvious choice for that deck. I don't know what there is to talk about. It's just like
No, I just like Coco, like at the power level of Coco that's finally being shown in the deck. When Coco was like not seeing play for fucking ever.
I honestly don't even like Coco as a card just because I hate the variants on it. I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
I hate the
I
variants
got
on it
2
too.
Llanowar elves for my 4-mana instant.
I've talked to it about it. I've talked about it to an extent, to like a massive extent. But like, Coco is easily one of the most like overrated cards like all time, especially with the modern era of Magic.
Yeah, I mean, it was great in its standard format, but after that, it just fell off pretty hard, I think.
100%. 100%.
I think that it's pretty good in like the Jun Sac deck though, because like you're going like 1 to 3, like you have incentive to play a bunch of mana dorks and then also a bunch of like 3-drops, so like it makes sense in that deck.
Yeah, it's definitely better in that deck than it was in Banned Spirits and Pioneer, just because you have like ways to accelerate towards it, which is really nice.
Yeah, like it doesn't feel like you want to be playing all those 3-drops anyways. Like they're very important to the deck, so it doesn't like force you to just like cram 3-drops in your deck to like get better value off your Coco.
Last night, I was in bed and I was thinking about Collected Company. I don't know why, but I was thinking about like ways that card could be different. And one way I was thinking is like, what if instead of like 2, 3 CMC or less cards, just like look at the top, however many Coco is now, and you can get like 6 CMC total, but a max of 2 creatures. So you can get like
What?
1 Primeval Titan. Right? You can get like You can get like,
I mean, you can get Winota +2 drop.
yeah.
Having wet dreams?
How sick would that be?
Yeah, that would be pretty good actually. Yeah,
Oh, of course.
That
That
would be
might-
really good.
that might make that card good like outside of standard.
Like, do you remember? Like, it came out in like I think Ikoria, but it's like 3 mana, reanimate like 2 creatures with like.
Oh
total
yeah.
Yeah.
I had a boner when that card was printed, but I didn't read.
Oh,
that it
the
was,
episode's
like,
going
total-
downhill.
We were so close to the end.
That's not even that bad.
Yeah.
14-year-olds watch this show.
You just gotta keep
And-
PTarts off talking about the Portuguese, and then we'll have a publishable
Okay,
episode.
we're done. Great. I'm not wasting an hour and a half of my time doing this.
That's not even cancelable. Don't
Okay.
Yeah, reel
That's
it
not
back.
a
Reel it back. Reel
That's
it back.
not even cancelable. Anyway, I was really excited when that card was spoiled.
There you go. That's the way to say it.
I thought it was just like total CMC3 because I was just like, yo, Disciple of the Vault, it's good again. And then I read it and then I got upset. But that was
Very
just an
cool.
example of how-
Very cool.
Well, now you guys just like killed my story because I said I said what an erect whatever the fuck.
Ugh.
Y'all blame me for everything, but I was fine this podcast. I was fine.
Mm.
You did good, Ashiok.
Yeah, that's
I'm
what I
proud
thought.
of you.
At least I didn't ruin it 2 seconds in like PTarts.
What do you mean? That was awesome.
Ugh.
PTarts off the claws is just good content. It's what people come for.
Ashiok will bring the call. I'm pretty sure it's the matching bear and cat shirts that'll bring the people.
Oh yeah. Do we have any more Magic related content? We actually didn't talk about the modern mocks at all, which I think is probably.
I think it's probably correct based on the fact of the decks were 50% like Bant Uro.
Yeah. It was exactly what we said, right? It was like Bant field decks. And like,
And then it was a couple people metagaming, like Wombo metagamed, I think, a little bit with like Loraas and just hope to dodge prowess. There were a couple throwaways, like fun on them playing Neoform. Like, it wasn't a throwaway going into it,
yeah.
but like as soon as you see that 50% of your field displaying Force Negation, it's a throw.
Yeah, playing
like-
Neoform in any tournament's kind of a throw, let's be honest. That deck's kind of hot garbage.
And then like Bogles won, but like maybe Bogles is good. Like it's
Bogle
like,
was really good against prowess.
and
I
like,
mean,
it has to be good
yeah.
against like the Bant decks too, right? Or like the
Yeah, that
Euro
was their
decks.
reasoning. They said it was good against Bant and Prowess, but if that's the case, then Bogos is just nuts right now.
Yeah, but the
I
issue with Bogles that I've always found, I'll always find like a point where I'm like, fuck, Bogles is actually really good, and then I'll play it, and the deck just like loses to itself like too high of like it's like worse than Neoform almost. Like it has such a high fail rate.
Yeah, I will say the London Mulligan change made Bogos a little more competitive.
Made Neoform a deck.
Yeah. I don't know. I think if people are going to be playing Bogles, Prowess, and Europiles, I'm very happy to be on Greentron this weekend.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
I'd be happy to
agree.
be on E-Tron this weekend, but like Bogles is probably just gonna be like one of the tier 2 shitter decks that I ran into.
From
once.
like playing the prelim like earlier today, the modern prelim, and watching like a bunch of streamers also streaming it. I saw a lot of Bogles.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll just jam E-Tron this weekend pretty easily.
But then don't you like fold to like
Oh, I fold the
the
Euro
field, the Euro decks?
Yeah, I fold to the Euro decks, but like, hope I don't hit it right. Like I said, like Modern's the matchup lottery right now.
Yeah, I guess I still like that. All right. Well, does anybody else have anything to add to this wonderful episode of the Cabal podcast?
I do not.
Alright.
do not.
So if we want to go from, I'll start, then Theo, then we can go Gasman, Ashiok. If you want, if you want to do your shill, your plug, whatever, and then we'll wrap it. So I'm Owen. I'm PTarts to win on Twitter, on Twitch. I haven't like streamed in a few weeks, but I think I'm gonna come back and stream on Friday, Saturday. At least a little bit. We'll see. I'm a little bit washed right now, but yeah, tune in if you see me hit that go live button. And yeah, Theo, what's up with you?
All right. Theo Jung on Moto and Twitch. Word on my Twitter. I'll be doing a 24-hour stream this weekend, starting Saturday at 2 p.m. and ending Sunday on 2 p.m. Both Pacific time. So yeah, you can catch me there.
All right. My name is Gasman48 on Twitter and Twitch. Drop me a follow. Join the Gas Gang. We We slam some claws and top 8 challenges every single weekend.
Yeah,
All right.
buddy.
That's it for me.
I'm Ashiok. Ashiok Never Weaver on Twitch. Dreams of Ashiok on Twitter and Moto. I play random piles of whatever I think is good. I meme and I get shit canceled.
All right then.
I'm more
Alright.
cancelable than Yama.
So good talking with y'all, and everyone. Oh shoot, I forgot to shout at the start. Everyone, smash that subscribe button, smash that like button if you enjoyed the show, and everyone have a good one. We'll see you next week. Bye.